And today's session is all about club fitting and understanding what a golf club is all about. So I want to thank Callaway to bring this session to you, because Callaway has initiated this particular session. And though I will try and answer questions across all brands, and it's not like obviously a promotional video, but it's about understanding a golf club. So most golfers have a lot of misconceptions about golf equipment, which I will try to clear. Please try and keep your questions to equipment today and not about the golf swing, because I want to try and cover golf equipment in as much detail as I can, and it's a huge subject. So we probably have this session for over an hour, a little over an hour. So what is a golf club? So what is a golf club? A golf club basically has three components, three main parts, which is the club head, the shaft, and the grip. So these are the three main components in a golf club. So these three things make up a golf club. So this is obviously a driver. So we will start with the club head. Now, this is obviously a driver, so it's a wood made of titanium. In the past, you had wooden heads, and then we went to metal heads. Then we had some graphite and metal also, and now most of the club heads are made of titanium, because titanium is the hardest and the lightest material. So the club head can get a little bigger with a bigger surface area to make contact. So let's talk about the weight distribution on a club head. Now you've seen there are keys which adjust the shaft, and there are keys which adjust the weight on the head. Now by adjusting the weight of the head, we can actually change the ball pattern slightly. I mean, not a huge amount, but we can correct a slight fade or a slight draw, or a high shot or a low shot. So what happens? When we put weight on the toe of the club, so if we have weight on the toe, this is the toe of the club, whether it's a wood or an iron. When the weight is on the toe of the club at impact opens up. So if you have a problem hitting the ball, you can shift the weight on the club head towards the toe. You can use a lead tape to put weight on the toe, and that's what causes the club to open up a little more than before. So that is one way of reducing balls going to the left. Okay, I'm just going to give you some more. Right. So putting weight on the heel, or shifting the weight from the middle towards the heel, or putting a heavier weight or a lead tape on the heel, causes the club face to close. And when the club face closes, obviously the ball tends to go left. So by shifting the weight towards the toe or the heel, we can make the ball fade or draw a little more. Right? Now, for example, if you want to hit it a little higher, you can put weight on the bottom of the club. If you want to hit the ball lower, you put weight on top of the club. So that even goes for wedges. When we go to wedges, or we do it right away. On wedges, if you put more weight on the bottom, the shots will go a little higher. If you put weight a little bit more on top, the ball will go a little lower. Right? So that's how weight distribution on a club head can make a difference. Okay, so also if you put weight on the club, if you put extra weight, lead tape on the club, what it does is it actually makes the ball, the shaft, it makes the shaft weaker, right? So the swing weight goes up. I'm going to answer the swing weight question, but the swing weight goes up, but also the shaft gets weaker. So, it's not about just making the club heavier, but the shaft tends to get weaker. So sometimes if you have extra stiff clubs and you don't want to change your shaft, you could put some weight on the club head and it makes it weaker. Okay, so now coming to irons, right? So we're going to talk about irons. This is, of course, a blade. It's a muscle back blade. But there are two kinds of irons that you get. One is a perimeter weighted iron where the weight is distributed around the head, and one is a muscle back iron where the weight is just behind. So perimeter weighted clubs, it is said that the sweet spot is larger because the weight is around the club on the outer edges, whereas a muscle back club, the weight is just behind, so it's not so forgiving. Two is the composition of the club. Either it's cast or it's forged. Now, forged metal is obviously softer and more expensive. In today's day, they cast clubs with forged iron, so you can get something in between. But generally, better players prefer forged clubs because the metal is softer and it's easier to bend. So, talking about irons, what are the factors that you're looking for, right? One of the most important factors in irons is the lie angle, right? So what is a lie angle? It's a very interesting thing because the lie angle is extremely important in irons because lie angle is basically how the club sits. So if the club sits like this, that means the club is too flat for you. If the club sits like this, means the club is too upright for you. Now what happens? So if the club is too flat for you, then when the club hits the ground, there is resistance here and it opens up. So if the club is too flat for you, the ball will tend to go right. If the club is too upright for you, then the heel hits the ground and the toe shuts and the ball goes left. So you may find one club in your bag which is going left or right compared to the other clubs, more left or more right, and it could be that the lie angle of that iron is wrong. So it's extremely important to have the right lie angle. Secondly, the shaft on irons, right? The shaft on irons is important because the heavier the shaft, lower the swing weight is going to be, overall weight is going to be more of the club, and it will slow down the swing. So when you're swinging a club, and if it's very heavy for you and the shaft is heavy for you, you'll not be able to generate the club head speed. That goes actually not for irons, but for all clubs. So if it's too heavy for you, you'll not be able to swing it fast enough and you're going to lose club head speed, right? So I will come to the length of the club also. So when we are talking about shafts, the length of the club doesn't have to be longer if you're a tall person. The length of the club depends on how long your arms are in relation to your height and how long you're basically, what is the distance between the ground to your fingertips. So you may be a tall person with long arms, then you may need shorter clubs. Or you may be a short person with very short arms and you may need standard or little longer clubs. So it doesn't have to be according to your height. So, club fitting, people say, oh, I'm 6'3", so I need longer clubs. That's absolutely not true. You need longer clubs only if from the fingertip to the ground is more, hence you need longer clubs. And it's not about your height. So please keep that in mind. I will answer the swing weight question now. So what is swing weight? The swing weight is basically the weight of the club this way. So if I'm looking at a club, this is the swing weight. So the weight I feel this way is the swing weight. So it's basically the weight of the entire club in relation to the club head. So a more swing weight is, the swing weight will increase if my grip is lighter, because the relative head will be heavier in relation to the entire weights, right? So everything remaining constant, if the grip is lighter, the swing weight increases. If the shaft is lighter, the swing weight increases. If the head is heavier, then the swing weight increases, right? So if I want to reduce the swing weight, I could even put a heavier grip on my club and the swing weight decreases even though the weight of the club is increased. So please understand, swing weight is the weight of the club head in relation to the entire weight of the club. So if this shaft gets longer, the swing weight will also increase. So longer the shaft gets, everything remaining constant, the swing weight goes up. So swing weight comes into play basically when we say that the club balance has changed, it's the swing weight. So the balance of a club is nothing but the swing weight, or how you feel that weight of the club. So the entire weight of the club can be the same, but the swing weight can be different depending on how heavy the grip is, how heavy the shaft is, and how heavy the head is, and how long the shaft is. So a combination of all this could give you the same swing weight, but with different weight shafts and different weight heads, and putting weight in the grip, etc., etc. Right? So that is swing weight. I can take a few questions and then I will move on to details of a shaft. I mean, how do you identify a shaft?
Yes, sir. We have a few questions lined up right now. So,
ask them. Some of them I can ask you to hold on for longer because I may be explaining it anyway. So just read out the first question.
yes, sir. If the ball is on the green edge, what should we use? A sand wedge or a 7-iron?
Okay, I'll hold on to this question for towards the end of the session. Next question.
All right, sir. So what will be a good lob?
Sorry?
What will be a good lob?
Okay, so this we'll again answer later. Okay, I would like to answer questions related to the golf club at the moment.
So there's another question, but I think it's not related. How to do a backspin?
Okay, so we'll talk about that. Hold on to these. Once we finish this session, I'm going to go in and try and answer all these questions.
Yes, there is a question from an 11-year-old, sir. He says he's been playing for a year now. He's using a club. It's called the Scotty Cameron Futura 6M. He's been using it for a year. Is it okay for him?
Yeah, it's an extremely expensive putter, and if you're using a Scotty Cameron at the age of 11, you're very lucky to have a Scotty and to have parents who got you this club. Yeah, so just get your lie angle and the length of the club, the putter checked, and we got one of the most expensive putters in the market, so it's good. Okay, so I'm going to go into the shaft, and so there are few qualities, there are few things that change a shaft. Always remember, the lighter the shaft, the more expensive it is. So if you see some of these Japanese shafts, and there are some, they can cost you 40,000-50,000 rupees a shaft. They are like 30 grams and 35 grams. So they're extremely expensive. And to make a shaft lighter and strong enough, it's to make a just 1 second. So to make a shaft lighter and strong, it's important to have the shaft, to have the graphite fibers which are interwoven to make the shaft of higher quality and of more technology. Hence, the shafts get more expensive. So one is the weight of the shaft. The lighter the shaft, the faster you can swing, but not necessarily you can control it. Second is the flex. which is the stiffness of the shaft. So the stiffer the shaft, the lesser you can swing it faster. So if you have someone with a 70-mile club head speed, if he has a very stiff shaft, he will lose more club head speed. Hence, what we are looking at is a shaft that will suit you. So on an average, a lot of brands have firm, which is equal to stiff, or strong, which is equal to extra stiff. But generally, you're looking, if you're not hitting the ball, if you're not carrying a driver about 220 yards, you are okay with a regular shaft. If you're carrying a ball about 150, 160 or less, you should go with a senior flex or a ladies flex. If you're carrying the ball more than, say, 270 or 260 to 280, if you're carrying it more than that, then you probably need an extra stiff shaft. So it really depends on what is your carry distance with your driver. So that's the flex of a shaft. The next point what we are looking at is the kick point. So kick point is basically the point where the shaft bends. So if the kick point is low on a shaft, then the face opens up. So the club face comes a little more open, hence gives you a higher shot. Whereas if the kick point is in the middle, which is the mid kick point, then you get a standard height. And if you have a high kick point, where the kick point is somewhere here, then the club tends to actually bend a little bit and you hit the ball lower. So you could actually change the ball flight by getting a different kick point on your clubs. The next characteristic in a shaft is the torque. The torque is not the flex, but it is the twisting capacity of the shaft. So the shaft also twists, right? So if the shaft twists, okay, so I've just got one more point. So if a shaft doesn't twist, it feels stiffer. And the shaft needs a little bit of twisting capacity so that when the club is coming down, it can square up at impact. So the shaft should be able to twist. Again, if you see the price of shafts, the lower the torque, the more expensive the shaft. And if you see the golfers who take part in the long riding championships and fly the ball 340, 350, they play a torque which is only about 1.5. And if you see a weekend golfer plays a torque of about 3.5 to 4. A professional golfer plays anywhere between 1.5 to 3 torques. So the torque also makes a difference, and it makes you feel like, when you say this shaft feels like a telephone pole, it feels really stiff. It could be that the shaft is stiff, but the torque is also extremely low. So that's what torque is. Weight we've talked about, the shaft composition, of course, in today, before we used to have titanium shafts at one point of time, no one really goes there, but it's graphite and steel. So there are two kinds of shafts, one is graphite, one is steel. And now what has started happening is steel, they're being able to make the steel shafts as light as 80-85 grams. Generally, steel shafts are about 120 to 140 grams. So they've managed to make steel shafts which are lighter. And they're also now making graphite shafts which are very light and heavier. Now, there is a school of thought which says that graphite shafts are more consistent than steel shafts in terms of kick point, torque, flex. Hence, a lot of companies are now making graphite shafts which are 90 grams, which is like a steel shaft weight. But they claim that the twisting capacity of the shafts and the flex and everything is more consistent. So there is one point which is a little controversial, a little bit still a gray area for club fitting, is the spine of a shaft. So when you vibrate, if you put the shaft, if you stick the club somewhere and you just move the club and it vibrates, and when it vibrates at an angle, or it may vibrate at some angle where it's moving up and down. And that point, if you extend up the shaft, is the spine of the shaft. So there are a lot of people who do the spining of shafts. but I'm not too sure if it actually helps the shaft, if it actually helps in your performance. But a lot of people claim, and it's a debatable subject, so I'm not going to go too much into it. So now we will talk about the. Before I move any further, is there any questions regarding golf equipment, Ishan? Is there any question?
Yes, so there are a lot of questions lined up. But before that, I would like to say, dear friends, before we move on to the next questions, I would like to request you to kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the CFL channel on YouTube, and support us. And yeah, we'll be moving on to questions now. So this is a very generic question from Andrew. Why do we wear a glove?
Okay, so that's a very good question, actually. I really don't know because I mean, I grew up wearing a glove on my left hand, being a right-handed golfer, and most right-handed golfers wear it on their left hand. And I can't hit a golf ball without wearing a glove now, except maybe on chips and putts. And there are players like, great players like Fred Couples who didn't wear gloves. So there's no real answer, but people who are used to wearing a glove can't do without it. It says that they feel that you get a better grip on the glove. Those who don't use a glove, they don't feel it, and then they don't really care, and it doesn't make a difference to them. So there's no real scientific reason for actually using a glove. Next question.
So, can swing be increased by inserting lead power in the shaft?
I think he meant swing weight.
Yeah, I got it. So by putting lead powder into the shaft, it generally is put here in the bottom of the shaft, inside the shaft. What it does is it increases your swing weight by making the head feel heavier. But like I said, if you put weight on the club head, then the ball flight changes. So by putting it into the shaft, you are basically not affecting the club head, yet you're making the swing weight higher. So technically it can increase your distance, because if the club head feels heavier and if the shaft weight suits you, then you could swing the club faster, but not necessary. I mean, just by putting weight on the shaft, you're not going to increase your distance unless your club is too light before that. Next question.
I'm using a SLDR TaylorMade iron of 2014 edition, but purchased a brand new in 2017, along with a rifle shaft of 90 GM. Do I need to change it as for now, as my swing speed has increased?
So get yourself on a launch monitor. If you can get yourself on a launch monitor and you compare your old clubs to your new ones, you'll be able to see the difference. I will try and answer this question a little differently when I talk about club fitting. How to choose a good club fitter, and so it's how you see. See, end of the day, you know the shaft is right or wrong by seeing the ball fly. So if you see the ball is flying the way you want it to fly, the clubs are fine for you. Even if the readings show it's wrong. If you see that the ball is not flying the way you want it to fly, I have gone to many club fitters in America who have fitted my irons, and I hit the clubs terrible after I got it fitted. But the reading said it was perfect for me. Then I went to one of the club fitting centers, which I will come to later, and I figured out that whatever numbers that a computer says doesn't mean that that's perfect for me. How I see the ball fly and how the club head is for that flight is what is right for me, even if the numbers are not right. So I'm going to come to that in a little more detail a little later. Next.
Yes, sir. Is more swing weight good or less swing weight?
Okay, so it depends, So swing weight is a personal thing, but if you see a guy like John Daly, who had a very long swing, he preferred a lighter swing weight club. So, anyone with a very long golf swing will prefer a lighter swing weight. Tiger, who's much shorter and tighter with his backswing, prefers a higher swing weight, a heavier swing weight. So, if you have a short, quick swing, you go through the ball really fast, you would want a little heavier club. If you have a longer swing, you may want a little lower swing weight. Like I personally prefer a D0 swing weight. Generally, on an average, a tour pro prefers D2. So the swing weight goes from C to D to E, and from C it's C0 to C9. C9 being heavier, whereas D0 is heavier than C9, and then D9, and then it goes to E. So generally, the swing weight is the heaviest on the wedges and the lightest on the drivers. Next question.
What is D0 swing weight? D-0.
Yeah, so D0 swing weight, like I said, there are numbers given to the swing weight. So like a C0, C1, C1 is heavier than C0 on the club head. Then C2, C3, C4, C9 is the heaviest in the C series. And then you don't have C10, but you have D0. And then you have D1, D2, D3. So it's basically a machine which holds the club. So it holds the club like this. Can you getting the whole club? Yes, so it holds the club like this. So I move the weight up and down. So the more I go here means that the club head is lighter. The more I go here means the club head is heavier. So there's a reading to that, and the swing weight basically, the heavier the club head, the higher the swing weight. The heavier the club head feels. So if the club was short, the swing weight would be less. If the club was longer, the swing weight would be. So it's a relative weight of the head in relation to the weight of the club. So the D0 is more or less a middle. Generally, most of the irons that you buy off the rack are between C7, C8 to about D0 to D2. So C8 to D2 is a standard weight of clubs that you buy off the shelf. If you're buying irons which are graphite sharp, they're generally about C7, C8, C9, around that place. Okay, next question.
So, what is the kick point?
Okay, I think I answered this, but I'll just quickly answer this again. The kick point is basically from where the shaft bends. So if the shaft bends from here, the face actually opens up and increases the loft. If the shaft bends from the middle of the club, then the face kind of stays a little more square. If the kick point is high kick point, then the face tends to reduce the loft at impact and hit the ball lower. So the kick point decides how high you hit the ball. So lower the kick point, higher the ball goes. Higher the kick point, lower the ball goes. Next question.
So next question is a lighter club better than a heavier club?
It's totally relative. I mean, for my father who's 80 years old, for him, obviously lighter club is better. Somebody who doesn't have that much club head speed, the lighter club is better. If you're very strong and you've got a very fast club head speed, then if you go too light, you will lose control. So you will have to go a little heavier. But yes, the whole world is moving towards lighter clubs. Next question.
What is the correct loft for a driver?
Okay, it can vary. I mean, Vijay Singh, who was world number one at one point of time, was playing an 11-degree driver. There are guys who play 6-degree drivers. So it all depends on the launch angle, which I'm going to come to, because driver fitting is a very, very interesting subject, which I'm coming to after this. So I'll get there. Next question.
Why should we take the ball on the left foot when hitting driver?
Okay, so I don't want to get into the golf swing, but we put the ball on the left foot because we want to catch the driver a little bit on the upswing. So by changing the ball position and putting it forward, we actually hit the ball upward. Okay, so I'm going to move on before I take other questions. I think a lot of questions will get answered. So I want to come to the grip. Now, the grip is extremely important, and I know a lot of people like to say that, I want to put a heavier, thicker grip on my club. It makes me feel better. Now, putting a thicker grip for a regular golfer is not a good idea, for the main reason being the thicker the grip, the lesser the hand action. And the grip should be thick enough so that when you hold the club, your fingers, your left hand fingers don't dig into your palms, nor does it stay like this. So if the grip is too thin for you, your nails will dig into your palms. If the grip is too thick for you, it will be something like this with space between your palms and your fingers. So if you've got really big hands, you need thicker grips. Otherwise, you don't need thicker grips. Thicker grips mean lesser hand action. Thicker grips means lesser club head speed. And thicker grips means that the ball will go more right. If the grips are too thin for you, the ball will tend to go a little left and you may have more hand action. That's one part. The weight of the grip, like I said, if the grip is heavy, then the swing weight gets reduced. If the grip is extremely light, the swing weight increases. That's why when you change your grip on your club, say your favorite club, the club suddenly feels completely different. Unless you put the exact same grip or the same weight grip and the same thickness of a grip. Good players can make out a milliliter difference between the thickness of a grip. Next is the composition of a grip. So there are players who like to feel the grip a little hard, which is basically cord. So cord grips feel a little firm. Then you have these softy grips, which feel very soft. So, people with less club head speed, people with delicate hands, they would prefer a softer grip. But if you give a person who swings it really hard and you give him a soft grip, he will feel that the grip is shifting during the swing. So the texture, then you get these, composite grips where half the grip is cord and half the grip is rubber. Then you get different kinds of grips like the ionic grip, which is a Japanese grip, which is supposedly more tacky and feels little more comfortable and feels a little more in control in slippery and humid conditions when you're sweating a lot. But again, grip is a personal choice, but keep your grips clean. I mean, when I'm talking about grips, most golfers never clean their grips. You should clean your grips at least once a month if you play twice a week. Clean your grips regularly so that the grips stay nice and tacky and they don't slip. Slippery grips on a golf club is death. So just make sure that your grips are nice and tacky and comfortable to hold. Okay, so I'm going to go to driver fitting. I'm going to go to driver fitting and then I'll take some questions. So one of the biggest breakthroughs, if you see the PGA Tour and you see that the average driving distance going up, is not only because the equipment is improved, but because the launch monitors come in where golfers optimize their distance by getting the right shaft, the right loft on their clubs. Now, what are the factors that you're looking for when you're getting your driver fitted, especially with the launch monitor? I mean, when we were growing up, we didn't have launch monitors, so we tried 10 different shafts, 10 different clubs, and then we chose, whichever felt the best or whichever flew the most. But today you have a launch monitor, and the readings that I'm going to talk about are the ones which are actually going to help you optimize the distance on your driver, right? So one is the launch angle. So the optimum launch angle. So the launch angle is the ball launching from the club head, right? On professional golfers, it's generally varies around 16 to 20 degrees or so. But the shorter hitter you are, the more the launch angle needs to be. Hence, if you see ladies drivers or senior drivers having 12, 13 degrees long, so that basically gives them an optimum launch angle. So the optimum launch angle is not the loft of the club, but the angle at which the ball is taking off, right? So the optimum launch angle varies with the carry distance. So the longer hitter you are, lower is the optimum launch angle. The shorter hitter you are, higher is the optimum launch angle, right? Next is the spin rate, how much the ball is spinning. Now again, shorter hitters need more spin because they need that lift in the ball. The more the ball spins, the more it lifts. So shorter hitters need more spin on the ball. Longer hitters need to reduce the spin on the ball because it's like a cannonball. It just goes zoom. And you say, I hit a boring shot. What is a boring shot? A boring shot is a shot where there's lesser spin on the ball. So the longer hitters need lesser spin. Now, how do you know? How do you change that? One is the angle of approach, the way you're coming into the ball. The steeper you come, the more spin you put on the ball. Also, shafts make a difference. The kick point of the shaft makes a difference. So when I'm trying out different shafts, I'm not only looking at the carry distance, but I'm also looking at the spin rate on the shafts. So I choose a shaft. Well, I'm a relatively long hitter, so I choose a shaft which puts less spin on the ball. So spin rate is one more important point. The other thing that you're looking for is the smash factor. So what is the smash factor? So in a layman's terms, smash factor is basically the transfer of energy from the club head to the ball. So the club head speed, the ball speed in relation to the club head speed. So I may have a faster club head speed, but the ball speed is not optimum in relation to the club head speed. So the higher the smash factor means that the better I'm transferring the energy from the club head into the ball. So the smash factor improves with the quality of impact. So the more I hit it on the sweet spot, the higher the smash factor. The more I hit it off the sweet spot, lesser the smash factor. The more the loft I create also increases the smash factor. So smash factor is an important factor to look for when you're fitting a driver. And finally, obviously, is the club head speed. You're looking for a shaft which helps you generate the maximum club head speed. So a combination of the club head speed, the smash factor, the spin on the ball, and the launch angle will help you choose the correct driver. And always look for these 4 points when you're choosing the correct driver. And basically, what you're looking at is the right shaft and the right loft on the driver. So that should help you get the right driver. Second thing is the length of the driver. Now, there are golfers who like a 44.5. The standard driver today is 46. And the longest driver you can have is 48 inches. Now, the longer the driver, the more club head speed you can generate because your arc gets longer and wider. But the smash factor is what gets compromised. So, there's no point getting a 48-inch driver if you're compromising on your smash factor because the distance will be lesser. So anyone who has a higher smash factor but a little lesser swing speed will still hit it as long as the other guy who has a lower smash factor but a higher swing speed. So to optimize both, you have to get the right shaft, the right length of shaft, and that will help you hit the ball to your maximum length that you can hit. Okay, so we've already talked about irons. We will talk about the wedges. Once I talk about the wedges, I want to talk about the putter, and then I'm going to take all the questions, right? So choosing the correct wedges in your bag. So everyone, wants to put in 4 wedges in their bag. Some people like 5 wedges in their bag. I'm not a big fan of 4 wedges in the bag. For the main reason being, I feel, why are we having 4 wedges in the bag? The reason why we put 4 wedges in the bag is basically to bring down the gap between your pitching wedge and the wedges, right? The pitching wedge, generally we hit it 130 to 140 yards. A professional golfer will hit it anywhere between 130 to 140. And then he's hitting his sand wedge about 100 to 110 yards. and he's looking to fill the gap with a gap wedge. Now, my logic is that if I put a gap wedge in, then I don't have to control my pitching wedge to hit it at 110, 115. But I would rather have another longer club, a hybrid or a long iron, because I think it's easier to control a pitching wedge to hit it 15 yards shorter than to hit my hybrid 15 yards shorter or my 5-wood 15 yards shorter. So it's easier to control the pitching wedge. Hence, I would rather have that breakup of an extra club on my longer clubs than on my shorter club. But leaving that aside, if you like 3 wedges, I would like the pitching wedge to be about 46, 47 degrees, my sand wedge to be about 53, and my long wedge to be about 58. Now, people who like 4 wedges in their bags, they would have like a 46, then they would have like a 50, then they would have like a 54, 55, and a 60. So that would give them about 10 yards of increment between their clubs. So whichever way you like it, it's your choice. But one of the main factors in choosing a wedge is the bounce factor. Now, most people don't understand what a bounce is. Let me try and explain it to you as simply as I can. So bounce is basically, if this is the ground level, this angle, the angle between the ground and the leading edge is the bounce. So this is a more bounce, this is less bounce, this is 0 bounce. Right, so this is 0 bounce, this is maybe 5-7 degrees bounce, this is about 10 degrees bounce, this is about 25 degrees bounce. Right, so the angle between the leading edge and the ground is the bounce. Now, how do you, and the bounce is generally written on the wedges. So it says 54.8 or 54.9. So 9 is the bounce, 8 is the bounce, 6 is the bounce, 12 is the bounce. Now, generally, a club golfer should go with a bounce of anywhere between 10 to 14, 15 degrees. But a professional golfer generally chooses the bounce in his club depending on how steep he's coming into the ball. So the people who swing the club very shallow prefer a little lower bounce. People who tend to come steep into the ball choose a higher bounce. Right? So that's one part. Second part is depending on the ground conditions. Now, if you're playing a golf course like say a Gindi in Chennai, the ground is extremely hard. You would want to use a lower bounce wedge there. Or you're playing in Scotland, you're playing one of these links courses in Scotland, very firm fairways. You want to go with a lower bounce club. And then you're playing a golf course in Florida or in Calcutta or anywhere where the fairways are well watered, lush, or the ground condition anywhere Southeast Asia, where the fairways are soft. Then you would want to go with a higher bounce. If you're a golfer who plays on a golf course, on one golf course, only 2 golf courses, and the bunkers are very soft and heavy, then you need higher bounce. But if your bunkers are very firm, hard sand, then you need lower bounce. So, you choose the bounce on your clubs according to how you come into the ball and what kind of conditions you play. But if you're playing with a wedge which is about 8 to 12, 14 degrees bounce, you're safe no matter how you're swinging the club. But I would recommend most golfers who duff their shots, who tend to hit a lot of duff shots, to go with higher bounce clubs. Because that's a simple way of not duffing a shot, is to have a lot of bounce on your clubs. You even find these wedges, these Sure Out and different kinds of brands which has these very big, broad bottoms. Those basically have a lot of bounce. And what it does is make sure that your leading edge is not digging into the ground. The bottom of the club is hitting the ground, hence it's sliding through the ground. Hence you're not duffing the shots. So that's the best way to choose your wedges, is to look at the bounce and always go with a higher bounce. I will just come to the putter fitting before I start taking questions, and from the putter fitting onwards, we will only take questions and answers. And even if it's a golf-related question, I will try and answer that. So we will take this session another half an hour, 40 minutes. So how do you choose a putter? One of the most important factors in choosing a putter is the putter loft. Now most people feel the putter is flat, but every putter has a loft of about 4 degrees. Now if you're playing really slow greens, you may need a little higher loft putter, which is 5-6 degrees. If you're playing really fast greens, you may be needing a putter which is 2 or 3 degrees. But a putter has to have loft. A putter has to have loft. And the reason being, if the putter didn't have loft, the ball would hit the ground and bounce up. But with the loft, the ball actually carries a little bit, skids, and then starts rolling like it's got topspin, but you're actually not putting topspin. So choosing a putter, you must know. Also, if you put your hands too far forward in a putter, you would need more loft. If you have your hands more or less even or a little behind, you would need more loft on the putter. So that's one factor you got to look at it. 2 is the shape of the putter. I don't have putters here in the house at the moment, but if your stroke is up and down, then you want a putter which is more like a mallet putter with a bigger head, squarer head, rounder head, but a bigger head. If you have a stroke which goes a little bit in to in, where the putter is moving a little inside and inside, you want a toe-heavy putter which is like a blade putter, like an Answer or like some of these Odysseys which are very thin-bladed putters. So those are the ones which are toe-heavy, hence promotes an in-to-in putting stroke. So keep that in mind. If your putting stroke is in-to-in, you would want a thinner putter. If your putting stroke is more up and down, which I like, is a bigger headed putter. So that's the next part. Second is the lie angle. You would want the putter to lie flat. You don't want the toe to be up or the heel to be up. Hence, to get the lie angle and the length of the putter when your hands are hanging under your shoulders comfortably, that's the length of a putter you generally want. The thickness of a grip in a putter, if you have a thick grip on a putter, it reduces the wrist action. Hence, a lot of players have now started preferring a thicker putter grip. I would like to also talk about the counterbalance putters, right? So if you see Odyssey has these tank putters, which is a counterbalance putters. What it does is there is a lot of weight put on the top of the putter. Hence, when you're making the stroke, this weight stabilizes the putter and it's almost like using a long putter. So it is said to stabilize the putter by the weight being here, and you could just move the putter up and down, and this weight kind of stabilizes the putter. So that is a counterbalance putter, which is the tank series in Odyssey. So you also have the long putters, which of course more or less now has gone out of fashion because players can't anchor it anymore and you have to keep it out. But the tank putters may work for you because there's a lot of weight on the head, there's a lot of weight on the butt end of the club. Hence, the putter moves up and down a little more consistently. Okay, so finally, I just want to talk about club fitting. Now, there are a lot of good club fitters in the country, and what I want you to know is that when you go to a club fitter, if he's just looking at his numbers and he's looking at his flight scope or TrackMan and telling you that, okay, this ball is flying the best, this is carrying the most, your club head speed is the highest with this, I suggest you change that club fitter. You need to go to a club fitter who should be able to also see a ball flight, who should also be able to ask you what kind of a ball flight you want. Now, I'll go to my experience. I've been to club fitters in America who had everything in place and they fitted the clubs perfectly to my angle of approach, the way I come down on the ball. And every time I checked the sole of the club, the marks were perfect, everything was correct. But I didn't like the way the ball flew. I was hitting the ball left and I didn't get the fade that I wanted. And then when I went to the Maxfly Fitting Center in America, and I worked with some of the club fitters who actually work with the PGA Tour players, he fitted me completely different. He gave me clubs, he made me hit every iron, and he asked me which ball flight I liked, and he bent that iron, and then again he gave me, let me hit balls, till I found the ball flight exactly the way I wanted to hit the ball. And when we actually looked at the numbers, my long irons were 3 degrees to 4 degrees flat, and my short irons were 2 degrees flatter than standard. Whereas, according to my height, I needed 2 degrees upright clubs. Now, at that 4 degrees with my long irons and 2 degrees with my short irons, the ball flight that I was getting was the perfect fade that I wanted, and consistently. And I stuck to that even till today, which was about 15, 16 years back, maybe more. So, the club fitter should also be able to feel, should be able to see physically how your ball is flying, should be able to interact with you, get your feedback, and finally you're the one who has to choose the club and has to hit those shots. So if you are not comfortable with the ball flight, even if his number says correct, it doesn't matter. You need to be getting a ball flight the way you want the ball to fly. And if that means that the numbers are different from what the computer says is right for you, so be it. So your club fitter has to be a person who's knowledgeable enough to actually tell you and give you clubs which not only give the correct numbers, but more importantly, gives you the ball flight you want. So that's extremely important in choosing a club fitter and going to a club fitter. So if you're going to get your clubs fitted, make sure you're going to somebody who understands and who appreciates your feedback and not just tells you that, okay, this is what you need and you have to go with it. Don't go to club fitters who try to sell you clubs directly and pushes for something. The club fitter should give you your options and you should be able to choose, and you don't need to buy the clubs from the club fitter. So I'm telling you as a golfer, and I'm not telling you as a professional or someone who's trying to sell equipment to you, I'm telling you what I would do. So please be very careful when you choose somebody who's going to help you choose the clubs that you need. Ishan, now we'll go to the questions. I will try and answer most of the questions. Roughly how many questions do you have, Ishan?
So there are around 20 plus questions we have right now, more than that.
Okay, so I will try and take, if I've already answered the questions, you will get a recording of this and you will get an answer. If I've already answered, I'm not going to take those, I'm not going to answer it again. The ones that I haven't answered, I'm going to try and answer. So Ishan, start right from the beginning.
So before going to the questions, I'd like to tell our viewers that we'd like to take this opportunity and appeal to every one of you that if you want to contribute towards feeding underprivileged children, please contact us on 84202 40000. That'll be very helpful from you if you do that. And okay, we'll be getting on with the questions right now.
Okay, so can I have the next question?
Yes, sir, sure. How to identify swing weight which will match a player's swing?
Okay, so swing weight generally, there are two factors. One is how you feel about it, how you feel if you like to feel a heavier club or a lighter club. I like to feel a lighter club, so I prefer lighter swing weight. But if you like to feel a heavier club, then you would go with a heavier, higher swing weight. That's one part. Second part is that if you don't have a very fast, high swing speed, then you definitely want to go with lighter clubs and lighter swing weight. So don't let your ego come in the way. If you have a problem swinging the club, if you feel tired, if you're senior, then just go with lighter clubs. Keep the ego aside, go with lighter clubs. They will be better for you. And if you feel, if you're a good player, if you're a low handicap player and you want to kind of experiment, go with something that feels good to you. So if the swing weight, which is a little higher, like D2, D3, but stay between, I would say, about C8 to about D3 if you're a good player. Don't go lighter or don't go heavier. Next.
So this is a golfing related question. The head or the body head is moving opposite to the target at impact. What causes it and how to correct it?
So when you generally, I'll just give you a simple, one of the main causes, but there could be many different causes, but when your head falls back at impact, it generally happens when you slide. So if your hips move forward, the upper body will tend to fall back, and that's one of the main reasons. So instead of sliding, if you rotate, then the chances of head falling back is a lot lesser. Next question.
Why does everyone say that we should hit slow to hit a straight and high shot?
You should hit it.
Slow.
Not necessary. The slower you swing, the lower the ball's going to go. If you swing too slow, or if you try to control a shot, then the ball's going to go left and right. I'll just give you a simple example. If you're riding a cycle, and if you're going at a consistently decent pace, which you can control, the balance is better. The moment you slow down the cycle and try to ride it really slowly, you're going to lose your balance. The same way when the club head is swinging, right? So when you're swinging the club head, if you slow down, you're going to open or close the club face and try and guide the ball and end up hitting a bad shot. So under pressure, it always makes sense to make a fuller swing without slowing down the club head. Next question.
Somebody who's with a high swing speed and the person feels that these clubs are too long. Is it advisable to fit the club short? The player is less than 4 feet in height.
Yeah, I mean, what we just need to check the swing weight. So whoever the coach is of the player, he should be able to recommend whether the clubs are actually right height. So it's all relative, you know. If he's 4 feet, obviously he needs shorter clubs, so than standard. But it also depends on what speed, you know, how much he can control the club. If it's too long and he's losing control and the club seems to be controlling him. So it really depends, and I think it's something that one needs to check with the coach. Next question.
I find it difficult to control a large volume driver. I get better control on a 3 wood but lose distance. Can you recommend a suitable driver? I'm currently using a Callaway.
So I know there's a problem for a lot of people. You can go with a slightly smaller head driver. You don't have to go with a 460 there. I think most of the brands, I know Callaway has a smaller head driver. The Tour models are smaller. So you could go with a Tour driver, which is a little smaller head. And you could also go with a high, if you can hit the 3 wood better and not the driver, you could even try a more lofted 11, 12 degree driver and see if that helps you. But going higher with the loft of a driver doesn't mean you hit it shorter. It's a complete myth that you need lower loft to hit the ball longer. So what works for you is actually what you need. The next question.
What is the importance of offset and bounce angle? And how can I know what is the importance of offset and the bounce angle? How can I know that what is the right bounce angle and offset for me?
Okay, I've replied. You know, I've answered that question in detail about the bounce. So when we do the rerun, we'll talk. You can see it. Offset basically sets your hands a little forward. So the only difference between an offset club and so this one is not an offset club because it's a blade. The heel of an offset is a head. So basically what it does is sets your hands a little ahead of the club head, and it tends to reduce the slice. I mean, that's what people claim. I'm not too sure. But the offsets tend to reduce the slice is what most manufacturers claim. And the bounce, of course, depends on your angle of approach. So I'll just repeat again. If you come steep into the club, you need more bounce. If you come shallow into the club, you could go with a lower or lesser bounce. Next question.
How much distance should we maintain between the two hands in a club grip?
Okay, so we've talked about this. I'll just quickly say, so wherever your hands hang under your shoulders, That's the distance that you need to maintain. So this is 5 iron, this is the lob wedge, and this is the driver. Right? So you should go to the club heads. My hands are at the same place, hanging under my shoulders. The length of the club decides how far it's going to be from the ball. But my hands are the same distance from the body. The ball position, of course, varies, with the driver being further up and the wedge being further back. Nothing else changes. Next question.
What should be the ideal CPM difference between clubs?
Okay, so that's a little technical. I will, if you can send the question across, I will send you the chart. So there is a chart available, which we will send it to you. So Ishan, if you can take the person down, we'll send in the chart.
Sure. Muskeg loft of driver is very high. Can you tell me why it is? What's the reason?
Sorry, can you repeat?
USK.
Yeah.
USK.
US kids?
Loft of driver is very high. Can you?
Yeah,
tell the reason?
so I mean, whether it's a US kids, Callaway has a new line of children's clubs also. So children's club, the lofts are higher because their club head speeds are lower. And like I had mentioned, that the lesser the ball carries, the optimum launch angle is higher. So a 7-year-old child may need a 14-15 degree driver, and a 10-year-old child may need a 12-degree driver, and henceforth. Or a child who swings it really slowly needs a 14-degree driver. So it depends on your club head speed, the lofts of the driver. Hence, all these children's clubs have higher lofts because that gives them the maximum distance. Next question.
What distance should be maintained between the ball and hands?
I have already answered that. Next question.
So, what should be the ideal grip weight?
Grip weight.
Yes.
There's no ideal grip weight. But if you go for a standard, like a Golf Pride standard grip, I mean that's a standard. Then if you want to go into extra light grips, if you search and if you see the grip options, you get light grips, or you can get cord grips which are heavier. So I don't have the numbers with me, but a standard rubber grip like this one, like this grip is a standard rubber grip. It's a cross line. This grip is a standard weight grip. And then if you want to go to, or if you look at this grip, which is a cord grip, this will be slightly heavier than that grip. And you could go to lighter grips, extra light grips, which will make the swing weight go up, but the overall weight of the club go down. So it's all relative. Next question.
Does a thicker putter grip give more control or a thinner?
So the thicker putter grip reduces your hand movement, the wrist movement, so it's easier to keep it on line. Whereas the thinner putter grips, like the one which Tiger uses, that gives you a little more control on the distance. So with the thinner putter grip, you'll be able to control the distances a little better probably. But with the thicker putter grip, it'll be easier to keep the putter head on line. And distance control may not be that important for you. And with the thicker putter grip, you can also control the distance. But that's basically the difference. The thinner the grip, the more the wrists come into play, the more you can, control the club head. As far as the speed is concerned, the thicker the putter grip, the more you can control the club head as far as direction is concerned. Next.
How do we clean a grip?
Okay. So the ideal way to clean a grip is to take an old toothbrush, have the tap running at maybe just lukewarm water, and you can take surf or you can take any washing powder. Just dip the brush and gently scrub the grip over the running water. The running water is on the grip, and you just gently scrub it, and you'll see a lot of grime coming out. And then take a towel and just dab it dry and keep the clubs out to dry till it dries up before you put it back into the set. So once a month is a good thing for someone who does it, who plays golf twice a week. If you're playing more than that, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. Next question.
What is the smash factor?
I've explained that. So whenever you watch this video rerun, you will be able to see the smash factor is basically the transfer of the energy from the club head to the ball, and more effective and the lesser energy that is lost, so better contact that you make, the higher the smash factor. So an ideal smash factor is around 1.5 to 1.52. And then if you don't hit it too well, then it would be somewhere in the 1.3s. Next.
What are the recommended 14 clubs in the golf bag?
Well, I would say if it's a high handicapper, anyone who's above 14, 15 handicap, you should have a driver, a 3-wood, a 5-wood. And then you have 2 hybrids, like a 3 and a 5. That's 5 clubs. Then you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, pitching, sand, lob, and a putter. So that's the ideal breakup. If you're a lower handicapper golfer or you're playing in windy conditions, maybe you could replace 1 hybrid and 1 5-wood with a long iron, a longer iron. You could put in 1 extra wedge. But generally, that's the breakup that you're looking at. So the 14 clubs will have 3 woods, couple of hybrids, 3 wedges, 5 iron to 9 iron, and the putter. Next question.
Can you recommend a good golf club fitter in Delhi?
I'm not too sure about who are the people there, but I know that Callaway has a regular fitting. They have regular fittings across Delhi, and they do it at different places. I know they do it at DLF. They do it at I think they do it at Noida. They do it at Shri Fort. So Callaway has regular fitting. Callaway has a fitter called Ashutosh, so you could even connect with him. Those who want to connect with the fitter, we can send the number across. Next.
Is club fitting recommended for a 10-year-old?
Basic club fitting, yes. We've got a club fitter, Arif, in our academy. Our teachers like Rukmani, Tavleen, Bharat, they're capable of fitting clubs. I'm there, so in our academy, between these 3-4 people, the children can just come and get their clubs checked. If you're in another city or if you're playing golf in another golf club, you could look for somebody. But yes, you should get your clubs fitted. Very basic fitting. You don't really need to go and spend thousands of rupees, but just you can get your clubs checked rather. If you're a 10-year-old, just get your clubs checked if they suit you or not. And if your coach says it suits you, then I think you should go with him rather than anyone else, because it is a very scientific art, and it's not like it's just like taking a health tip from somebody or a stock tip from somebody. So you got to go to a professional. Your coach is the best guy. If your coach can't help you, then through your coach, go to somebody who can help you. But don't ask another member in the club or another parent and say, okay, do you think this club is okay or not? Because that is a sure way of getting misguided. Next.
Does the more bounce angle help in chipping?
Sorry?
Does more bounce angle help in chipping?
Generally it does, because if I personally prefer recommending 14-15 degrees of bounce on wedges, because that makes chipping easier. The only time when very high bounce is not a good thing is when you have a lie of an absolute hard time, very bare, very hard surface. Because there, what happens is if it's too much bounce, you may top the shot, you may scull it. So that is the only time, which is a very rare occurrence. So I generally recommend a higher bounce, any bounce above 10 degrees on wedges. Next.
This is one of the questions that I asked you before. If the ball is on the green wedge, what should we use? A sand wedge or a 7-iron?
Well, most of the time I would say closer to a 7-iron, 8-iron, 9-iron. So you choose a club depending on the distance you need that chip to carry to the front end to on the green, and then roll to the hole. So a foot or a couple of feet into the green. So if I have 3 feet of green to work with and 50 feet of green after that, then I need to fly the ball only 4 feet and let it roll another 45 feet, so 46 feet. So for a shot like that, I would go with a 6-7 iron. But if I have 4 feet of edge and then only about 8 feet of green, then I may go with the pitching wedge or sand wedge or lob wedge. So it depends how much I need to carry the ball and how much I need the ball to roll. So I choose a club according to the distance I need to carry and the distance the ball needs to roll. So I cannot tell you whether it's a 7-iron or a 6-iron or an 8-iron or a pitching wedge. So it will vary also on the speed of the green. If the green is very fast, then I'll go with a high loft club. If the green is slow, then I'm going to go with a low loft club. So there are a lot of factors, and I think in a short game session, this will be a better question to answer. But I've given you the answer, the basic. Next.
What will be a good lob?
What will be a good lob?
Lob.
LOB. So if you see the best lob shot player in the world today is Phil Mickelson. And you see even Tiger pulling off some miracles with lob shots. So one of the most important factors...
Yes, sir. LOB, lob.
Sorry? LOB, right? Yeah. So one of the most important factors in a lob or a lob wedge, are you asking about a lob shot or a lob wedge? So, okay, I'll anyway explain a lob shot. So it's not only about hitting the ball high, but how high. Because if you can't control the height of your lob shot, then that lob shot is, you're just hoping that the shot lands where you want it to land. So when you're hitting a lob shot, try to control the height or try to see the height you're going to hit it at. Your lob shots will get more consistent right from day one. If you're talking about choosing a lob wedge, you could choose a lob wedge between 58 degrees to 64 degrees, depending what you want it for. If you've got a sand wedge, which is 55, 56, you could go with a 60, 62 degree lob wedge. If you have a sand wedge, which is 53, 54, then I would recommend a 58, 59 degree lob wedge. So it really depends on what your sand wedge is to choose your lob wedge. So the lower your sand wedge loft, the lower your lob wedge loft should be. Next question. Is there any other question?
Yeah, there is. So why are iron and woods grips are round, but putter grips are triangle and thick around?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So you're not allowed to have anything but round grips on the clubs. But there's one thing I didn't mention about grips is there are two kinds of round grips. One is just a round grip. One is a ribbed grip. So the ribbed grip, on the back portion, there is a little raised, the grip is a little raised, which when you hold the club only you can feel it. So that's called a ribbed grip. So there are a lot of players who prefer a round grip and there are a lot of players who prefer a ribbed grip. That's one. You're not allowed to have, little bit of a rib is allowed, but you are not allowed to have any flat surface on your grips except on the putter. Now, why is the putter grip flat on top? Because you want the thumbs to be settling on top of the putter head, on the grip. Hence, the putter grip is flat on top, and that kind of helps you move the putter square up and down. Now, that is allowed on a putter, but it's not allowed on your other clubs. So the putter grip is only allowed on the putter, and it's got a flat surface. It may be square also. It basically helps your hand sit square on the grip and be square to the putter face, making it easier to move the putter up and down. And that's the main reason why you have a flat surface on a putter grip.
Okay,
Next question.
Sir, do custom fitting is required for amateur player in their driver fairway, wood or hybrid for a correct ball flight?
Definitely the driver. Custom fitting is recommended not so much for children. If you're a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, you don't really need to fit your driver. But if you're an adult, I would recommend that you fit your driver. Rest of the clubs are not so important, especially the fairway woods and the hybrids. Just to have the right shaft is good enough for that. with the irons, to have the lie angle is important, but the driver is the club, which, if it's optimized, you may get up to 15-20 yards more. So the driver fitting is extremely important. You should definitely look at your driver being fitted. Next.
How to determine the ideal swing weight?
Like I've said this before, so ideal swing weight is personal, but if you don't have club head speed, then obviously lower swing weights is better. I've already answered this question. Next.
Is lob wedge and gap wedge necessary?
Lob wedge, I think, is necessary. Gap wedge is not, unless you're a really long hitter and you got a lot of difference between your wedges. You could look at a gap wedge. But gap wedge is not as necessary as the long wedge. I think everyone in today's world should have a long wedge in the bag.
Okay, sir, we have covered all the questions as of now. So in case you want to continue, over to you, sir.
Okay, so I think we'll end this session. This session will be available because there were a lot of repeat questions, which I said I've answered before this. This entire session will be available on our YouTube channel. And please, everyone who's logged on, please follow the YouTube channel, because we need people to follow us. And we've got some interesting sessions coming up. So we've got some sessions on meditation, on handling yourself under these difficult circumstances. We've got fitness sessions coming up. We've got golf sessions coming up. So please follow this channel.
Sir, I will just interrupt you. There is one more question, but it's a generic one. Which irons do you recommend for me? There is no details.
Okay, so choose. See, if you're a weekend golfer, you want clubs which are forgiving. I really like the new irons that I've tried out. I'm not playing them. I'm playing blades. I'm playing the Callaway blades, but the new Maverick irons which has been launched is very forgiving. Or you could give that a try. I think they're really nice irons and they're very easy to hit. So if you want to try out the Maverick irons, I think they're extremely good. So thank you all for coming on, and you will get the next session details soon. But please do follow the channel, and look forward to seeing all of you a lot more often. Thank you so much.